Hello everyone! On behalf of my group, I'm greeting you a good morning. I want to ask you a question before anything else. What do you think will happen if motor vehicles were not invented? To tell you, there will be two things. First, if I ask people in our country what they wanted, they would answer, we want faster horses. And number two, my group and I will not be speaking to you. However, because of the advancements in technology and innovations, we are about to discuss a thing to you at this point of time, and you are brought here to listen to us. Great, isn't it? Going ahead, today we will talk about a field of study or a program which develops skills related to engine construction, fuel and ignition, brakes, powertrains, and even electronic and diagnostic equipments. But first and foremost, let us chew over the industry that employs 4 million people directly and indirectly. It is responsible for almost half the world's consumption of oil. It is a major industrial and economic force worldwide, and according to Marta Jean Sanchez 2020, it has been thriving for the past 5 years. The automotive industry. The automotive industry is comprised of all those companies and activities involved in the manufacture of motor vehicles, including most components such as engines and bodies, but excluding tires, batteries, and fuel. It consists of highly diverse sectors such as the metal, electrical, plastic, rubber, and composite materials. It has a critical objective of designing, marketing, manufacturing, and selling of motor vehicles. To give you a brief history of the automotive industry in the Philippines, let me take you back in the early 90s. Back in the olden times, Filipinos were used to ride animal-pulled vehicles such as the carwajes, caritons, calesas, and even the sled-like and wheelless parados. A person living in a sitio would need to travel with 3 horses for 100 miles in order to reach Manila. And it is the reason why the Philippine car industry thrived. The first automobile in the country was introduced by the La Estrella del Norte, which is a department store founded by the Levy brothers in Iloilo. They opened a branch along Escolta and became a dealer of Essex, Hudson, and spectacular Dodge cars. In 1902, Erlanger and Gallagher, a well-known brokerage firm, began selling motor vehicles. The US-made Locomobile was offered for sale by the company. In the 1920s, Luneta Motor Co., a Ford dealer, became the biggest and most popular car dealer in the country along Malican Drive. At that time, owning an automobile became a status symbol. It became a statement of success to be flaunted and driven on the road. From the year 1932 to 1941, a Russian-born American man named Emil M. Bakhach, owning an automobile importation company called the Bakhach Motor Co., released and operated the first Auto Calesa, which is a public utility jeep. The transport endeavor was replicated by the Toyota Alabang, and they began operating taxis up to the present. Employment and having a hand in this flourishing industry requires the effort of studying automotive technology. As a matter of fact, 340,000 people in our country are employed in this industry, since it is one of the key drivers of the Philippine economy. Careers in automotive technology focuses on inspection, repair, maintenance of a vehicle's electronic system, including those found on motorcycles, cars, trucks, aircraft, industrial, and marine vehicles. Careers in the automotive technology include automotive technician, repair shop supervisor, service writer, engine technician, teacher trainer, aircraft technician, and many more. You can also operate a business, such as an auto repair and maintenance shop, automobile dealers, or you can become a retailer or wholesaler of automotive parts, accessories, and supplies. Work for automotive technicians worldwide is generally steady throughout the years and not very sensitive to changes in economic conditions. Therefore, layoffs are not a big concern. To proceed on the next part of the lesson, automotive technicians use many different tools and equipment. They usually purchase their own hand tools, whereas the shop provides the more expensive power tools and equipment. At this moment, I will now hand you over to my beloved groupmates as they introduce you to the basic hand tools of automotive technology.
Basic hand tool and their uses. A hand tool is a tool that is powered by the hand rather than a motor. Hand tools have been used by the humans long time ago to finish their various tasks. There are also many types of basic hand tools. The first one is wrenches. Wrenches are used to turn objects using torque, and other wrenches are used to stop objects from turning. Wrenches are also made in a various shape, size, and used for gripping, fastening, turning, tightening, and loosening things like pipes, pipe fittings, nuts, and bolts. Let us first discuss about the metric wrenches. A metric wrench will work with nuts and bolts that have a metric measurement. A small metric wrench would measure a 8 mm, while a larger one would measure about 20 mm. Metric wrenches are sized per the measurement in millimeter of the jaw opening. The usual size of the jaw is actually a little larger than the bolt or nut of the same size to allow the jaw to fit around. There is a possibility that the wrench you use may slip and will not effectively remove the nut. Number 1. The open-end wrenches. As the name implies, these are the opposite of box-end wrenches because the part that grips the nut or bolt is open. Like the box-end wrench, the open wrench is also double-ended and features a bigger or smaller size opening to the other end. Let's have the second one, which is the box wrench. The box wrench is completely encircles the nut or bolt to grip all the corners. Box-end wrenches are the opposite of open-end wrench in that their ends come with a closed opening that wraps around the bolts or nut. The third one is the combination end wrench, which is a favorite of technicians because of its multiple uses. First two wrenches are double-ended, but with the one end being a closed box-end wrenches, and the other one is open-end wrench. Also, the both ends of the combination wrench are the same size. The third one is tubing wrench or flare nut wrench. Flare nut wrenches are similar to a box-end nut, but the part that holds bolts and nuts is not entirely closed. In automotive repair, it's commonly used to secure brake and clutch lines, as well as fuel pumps and temp sensors. In addition to the tubing wrench, an open-end wrench is used to firmly hold the fitting while attaching it to the steel leg. So let's head to the third type of wrenches, which is the socket wrench. The socket wrench is the preferred tool of most technicians when they work with nuts and bolts. So basically, socket wrenches can be used in places that are inaccessible to common wrenches and are faster at removing bolts. The two basic parts of a socket wrench are the socket and bar or handle. Socket comes from the metric and the USCS sizes. It can be a 4-point, 8-point, 6-point, and 12-point, with the 6-point and 12-point sockets being the most commonly used by the technicians. Shallow sockets are good for smaller bolts, and deep sockets are for those hard-to-reach bolts and let you get a better grip. There are two kinds of shallow sockets. The first one is the shallow 12-point socket, and the second one is the shallow 6-point socket. A shallow 12-point socket is used for turning hexagonal bolt heads in tight places because it offers twice as many starting positions. In additional points will make these sockets easier to connect with the heads of fasteners. 12-point sockets are also great for use in tight spaces as they allow you to connect to a fastener at more angles. A shallow 6-point socket is designed to continue the head of a fastener. Additionally, it contacts the surface along the flat edges of the socket that make it less likely to slip. It is also for turning hexagonal bolt heads because it offers better grip and less chance of rounding off the bolt. Deep wall sockets are useful for turning nuts onto bolts when the bolts extend upward into the socket. A deep wall socket has 2 points. The first one is deep wall 12-point socket and the second one is a deep wall 6-point socket. A deep wall 12-point socket is used to turn nuts. When a bolt or a larger piece of metal through the nut is prohibited the use of the shallow socket. While the deep wall 6-point socket, it can be particularly useful when there is a risk of rounding off tightly.
Swivel socket or universal socket is a special design metal tool that is used for tightening or loosening bolts into a different direction. Impact socket design use powered impact or drivers, also called impact wrenches, and can be powered by compressed air, electrically, and oil. Next is bar and handles. The first types, the breaker bar, or also known as power bar, with a flexible head that is used to break a very tight fastener or difficult bolts and nuts. The next type is the ratchet. Allow handle to engage and tighten fastener when swing clockwise and loose counterclockwise. The difference between the two is that the breaker bar is used to break stubborn lug nuts or bolts, while the ratchet is used to quickly remove or install fasteners. The third type is extension bar, a solid piece of metal piping that allows the user to extend the reach of socket wrench. The fourth type is the speed handles or T-handles, useful in areas where there is very little room for operating and great for reinstalling tire in your car. The last type is the torque wrench, used to apply a specific torque to a fastener such as nut, bolt, and lug screw, and also used when screws and bolts is crucial in adjusting the tightness and desired value. There are also other kind of wrenches. The first one is an Allen wrench, used to drive bolts and screws with hexagonal sockets. The second is an adjustable wrench, an open-end wrench with a movable jaw allow it to be used with a different size of fastener. This one is a pipe wrench, designed to turn threaded pipe and pipe fittings for assembly or disassembly.
I have 4 kinds of screwdrivers to discuss what is the uses or the function of that tools. The screwdrivers has a straight blade for turning screws with a slot that is the same width and length as the screwdriver blade. First tools is Phillips screwdrivers or Phillips, also known as a crosshead. Just about everything uses a Phillips head these days, from furniture to appliances. The angle tip means you can fit a screwdriver deeper into the screw head and there is no risk of the blade sliding outside. One is Pussy Drive, designed as an update of the Phillips design. Pussy drive screw can be identified the four additional lines radiating from the center. The screwdrivers have a blunt tip and small ribs among the blade. Between the main edges, this improves torque and reduces the risk of came up. Next one is Torx or Torx Plus version, Torx Security version. So Torx drives were originally used for security functions, but they soon become popular in a commercial fields. The blades of the drives resemble a rounded of star or a flower and provide incredibly torque tolerance. This is nut driver is also known as hex screwdrivers. So nut drivers are something a lot of dyers never see, but they can be very useful in the mechanical industries. These drives are designed with a socket instead of a blade and tip, thus acting in a similar fashions to a socket work. And these are the 4 screwdrivers that I discussed to everyone. Next is the types or kinds of pliers. Is slip joints pliers. So these tools get its name from, you guessed it, it's slip joints rather than pivoting from a fixed rivet. So these types of pliers feature an adjustable pivot points that allows the two pieces of the pliers to shift, extending the range of the jaws. So slip joints pliers can grip materials of varying thickness. Second one is locking pliers. So locking pliers is used where more torque is needed to pry or remove object or where added grip is needed for holding object in place. So most uses includes loosening tight connection. So points such as a pipe joints, seals, nuts, and washer, and removing broken link. Next is adjustable or slip joints pliers offer 2 or more widths to accommodate a wider range of tasks. So handles are used to grip the pliers, a pivot allows the jaws to open, and the heads grips or cuts the materials you are working. So next is long nose pliers are both cutting and holding pliers used by artisans, jewelry designers, electrician, and network engineers. So and other tradesmen to bend the positioning and cut wire. Diagonal cutting pliers are used for cutting wire and small pins in areas that cannot be reached by large cutting tools. So because the cutting edge are diagonally offset about 15 degrees, this can cut object flush with a sword.
Spring pliers are specially designed tools that allow you to install or remove a snap rings or retaining ring. The tips of the pliers insert is one all about pliers. Hammers. A hammer is tools consisting of a weighted head next to a long handle that is swung to deliver an important to a small area of an object. Shelled hammers. Shelled hammers have heads that weigh from 8 to 20 pounds per are forged from head-treated high carbon steel. They usually have 2 rounded striking faces that delete edges and minimize chopping. 36-inch handles are common. Handles can be fiberglass. Next is soft face hammer. It is hammer designed to offer driving force without damaging surfaces. They also reduce the force transmitted back to the arms or hand to the user by temporarily deforming more than a metal hammer would. Next is a plastic tip hammer. On this hammer are designed to wear away as they protect the surface being stuck. Replacement is as easy as prying off the old tip and popping on the new one. Feather and forged high carbon quality shellhead supplied with replaceable tips one soft red and one hand yellow. Next is punches and chisels are used for removing pins and blushing and cutting or splitting steels objects. The wood punch and chisels are often used general close examination show there are many types, shape, design, and specific function for this a paint punch. To drive or remove pins after bend blows by a topper punch. Pin punches feature a long head, the same diameter as the tip and main from removing tension or solid pins. Next is center punch. An automotive center punch is a head tool used to produce a dimple in a workplace. Is for the same function as an ordinary center punch but without the need for a hammer. Brush or brush punch. A brush punch will leave brush mark and glide surface like a scythe. A brush punch is shorter than brush and will not leave marks. The standard called chisel. When you need to remove a few pieces of metal quickly, the cold chisel's skin is easily chipped the metal screw.
Change tools. These are tools used to change the oil in your car. For example, like the rugs, the mallet, the rubber, the safety glasses, and wrench set. Changing the oil in your car is something that any dayer can do. An oil change is the most important task you can do to make your engine last. An oil change isn't complicated, you probably did it yourself years ago. But with oil junk shops charging more and more, it's time to get back under the car and start saving big bucks. Plus, you won't be pressured into buying overpriced add-ons like wiper blades and PC valves every time you go in for an oil. Gauges. Gauges is an instrument or device for measuring the magnitude, amount, or contents of something, typically with a visual display such as information. The gauge have two enclosed similar to the filler gauge or spark plug gauge. Is the most spark plugs come pre-capped from the factory. But the gap may not be correct for every application the spark plugs fit. Letter B. Letter B is the tire pressure gauge. Tire pressure gauge is a tool that many people own but seldom use. Cutters. I think cutters is a tool for cutting something, especially one intended for cutting a particular thing or for producing a particular shape. Thank you.
To review the things that we have learned today. Number 1. The automotive industry has a critical objective of designing, marketing, manufacturing, and selling of motor vehicles. Number 2. Employment in this flourishing industry requires the effort of studying automotive technology. Number 3. The first automobile was introduced in our country, the Philippines, in the year 90s. The basic hand tools of automotive technology include wrenches, screwdrivers, pliers, hammers, punches and chisels, cutters, gauges, and oil change tools. Before I end this discussion, I would like to instill in your mind a quote from John Wooden. Success comes from knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming. Have a great day ahead.